Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. We are here on a special day today. We are joined by the Poet Zombe. How are you today, mate? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm well, thank you. And how are you guys?
Yeah, no, we're really good, mate. Reveling in the moment of the new manager. Just watched the press conference as well. Really promising signs. And we are, of course, as well joined by Toby on that side because the picture's mirrored. Hello, Toby. The OG of Albion Obsessed. How are you, mate?
Hello, yes, I'm doing good. It feels good to get the original band back together, if it is even just as a tribute. But yeah, no, it's great to obviously be back on again, and yeah, looking forward to this one a lot.
Definitely. And just recently, you got married, Zombie, didn't you? So congratulations for that. How was the day?
Thank you. It was an amazing day. At least we try to put the stress of wedding preparations behind. So at least we got to really enjoy the day. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I know exactly how that feels. So yeah, I'm right there with you, mate. So let's
Okay.
get into it then. So you're from Zambia, right?
Yes, yes.
And it's no secret that Zambian football, especially with I think it's two players in the Premier League from the mighty land. So tell us a little
Yes.
bit about Zambian football and how the rise is beginning.
Okay, Zambian football, I think I would love to talk about the fans before I even go into the players. I think Zambian football fans have very high expectations, not just of their own players, but of the teams they support themselves. So we've always had that excitement. Football has always been something that brings the nation together, whether females or males. When it's football time, the whole nation comes alight. I think you've noticed and paid attention. Sometimes even the president of Zambia does make comments about Enock Mwepu of Brighton and Patson Daka of Leicester. So that's how big football is in Zambia. In 2012, we got to win the Africa Cup of Nations. That was the first time we scooped that up, which was an emotional period because I don't know if you've gotten some of the history of Zambian football. We had one of our football teams perish in an air crash. That was. That should have been in 1990, 1990s, early 1990s. Yeah, our entire football crew perished at the same time. The only survivor, I think, from there who did not use that particular plane was Kalusha Walia, who was once African Footballer of the Year and is like one of our greatest icons in Zambia. So I think after 2012, we started having a crop of young players who played very exceptional football. Even in the World Cup, the under 17, the under 20s came on the scene and they lit the stage alit. That's where we got to see the likes of Patson Daka and Enock Mwepu. At that time, they were in the under 17s. They got to under 20, and you just have these high hopes of such players. I think both of them they started making their name in European football when they went to Salzburg. I think that's when they made some noise on the European scene. They got to play in the Champions League, so that was very huge amongst Zambian fans. Now we can watch the Champions League with one of our own players, and I think it's every dream of the Zambian players to play in the English Premier League. So Enock Mwepu and Pat Sandaka. Enock Mwepu is now the Zambian captain, playing in the Premier League with Brighton and Leicester respectively is an amazing thing for Zambian fans. We would watch Leicester play Brighton and celebrate when either of them contribute a goal.
Well, Patson Daka did contribute a goal against us a few weeks back, but he did not have the last laugh. So I imagine that the banter between him and Mwepu was quite good on the Zambian Football Club group chat. I'd
Yeah,
imagine. But no, I think Mwepu's certainly earned his plaudits here at Brighton, and we love him. Obviously, scored our goal of the season last season against Liverpool. Introduced himself fantastically well. I think that's the best thing you can do is score a goal like that, and we're on
yeah.
side. So he's been a delight, and I love watching his interviews as well. They've got this incredible attitude about them.
Mhm.
He certainly lives up to the name The Computer as well. Really makes things tick in the midfield, and both of them really exciting players for Zambia. Definitely a country that I'll be watching international football from now on. Even the name sort of Fashion Sakala Junior from well, he was at Rangers. I don't know if he's moved on now, but
Still there.
yeah, he another player that just looks fantastic coming through. You must be very excited over there.
Yes, yes, yes. When you went to Rangers, it was an exciting time. There's also another player I think you should keep an eye on. That's Kings Kango. I think he's playing. He should be in the Croatian league. Kings Kango. I think his team is actually in the Europa League. So that's another player you should look out for when it comes to Zambians. And then there's another one playing for Lecce. First one to play in the Italian Serie A. So yeah.
So, what are your thoughts then on the future of Zambian football, especially Enock Mwepu, because obviously we're a Brighton and Hove Albion podcast here. So,
Yes.
how far do you think he could go in the Premier League? Like, he spoke recently about wanting to get European football with Brighton, even saying the Champions League, which for Brighton fans, we've never heard of the Champions League. Like, come on, we're so far away from that. Obviously, fourth at the moment. We have very high hopes of European football. Do you think he could be a real important part of Brighton getting there?
I believe so. So when it comes to Enock Mwepu, I think I had a chat with him off season, this past season break, and Enock Mwepu is someone who's very ambitious, and he seems to have found more of a home or a place he could nurture his skill and his talent with Brighton. And personally, and even he would tell you that you haven't seen the best of him at Brighton. I think in the first season, despite the few glimpses of what we would love to see as the computer, there was a lot of injuries that were involved. So it's him trying to get with the pace of the Premier League, trying to get his injuries and his health on point. But I think once he kicks in, and I think before Potter left, we saw a slow transition of Enock Mwepu. He wouldn't play every game. It was more like little bits and pieces, trying to get his physique on point. So I think with Enock Mwepu, Brighton fans expect somebody who's dedicated, someone who's going to push and try and achieve his dreams and ambitions despite the club that he's with. It's not despite him maybe saying or having these ambitions of playing for different clubs. But one thing I love about Mwepu is whatever club that he is with, he's going to give his whole heart and he will play his heart out for that particular pitch. So I believe he's going to be a very strong player for Brighton. And he is only getting started. We're still yet to see the best of Enock Mwepu. So Brighton fans, we have to get ready to see what the computer really is about.
I'm very, very excited. Very excited. Go on, Toby.
No, I mean that's just given me, the perfect segue almost. Brighton fans are excited. You yourself are now an honorary Brighton fan. How has that been so far? How much has the love helped you from Brighton fans, and how good is it to be one?
It's crazy. It's crazy. This is something I actually didn't expect because initially I had actually written a poem for both Enock Mwepu and Patson Daka. So it was more of this is just my work getting out there and me appreciating my fellow countrymen. But then the Brighton fans made it their own. Where they just own the poem, like, yeah, this is our thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me see how far this goes. Let me see where this is going. And personally, I think I've had the best of interactions with Brighton fans. Most of them are very, very, very humble, and I love the humility amongst themselves. Sometimes, like you were saying, you're looking at the Champions League as something that's far fetched, but yet your team is playing brilliant football. I think that's other level humility. So I really love the friendliness. My DM is frequently receiving invites to Brighton games. I think about on 3 or 4 occasions I've been told if I come to watch a Brighton game, I'll be given beer, I'll be given pies. Some have actually opened up their homes to say if you don't want to spend money on a hotel, you can stay with us. So it's been amazing with the Brighton fans, and I actually feel more at home with the Brighton fans when I share the content for the Brighton fans. It's amazing, it's brilliant.
Yeah, well, we absolutely fell in love with your recent poem as well, because it obviously a recent thing that happened was Graham Potter left, and Brighton Twitter and the Brighton community found themselves in a really dark space, in a bit of a slump. And then for me, your poem was the thing that got me out of it. I was having a really bad, honestly, I was having a really bad week. And then when I saw your poem, it flipped, and it made me realize Brighton and Hove Albion are more than one man. Brighton and Hove Albion are more than a backroom staff. As you said, we're a community. We're so much more than what one man is.
Yes.
And if you haven't yet watched that, viewers, listeners, I'm going to insert it here because it's a fantastic piece. So enjoy this, and we'll pause for a second.
Potter. There's a story about that name. Something about wands, the reality of magic and defeating the odds, the old inspirational tale of the underdog. For 3 years, Brighton have witnessed a magic like none before. A peace so calm, where we found love in defeat, humor in victory, where we found lessons in downfalls, contentment in underachievement, and this year felt like the year we went after the Sorcerer's Stone. But with Potter gone, it feels like everything burnt into a goblet of fire, leaving Brighton staring at deathly hollows with no light, no hope. But lest we forget, in what looks like sudden sorrows, Potter built a team, a solid assembly of warriors gelled to beat the odds. So even in what looks like doom, we must, like Tawny, believe that this is still our season to bloom. So to every Seagull fan, with heavy hearts as it may, we wish Potter all the magic he can thrust for his new club, but all the more, the Seagulls will continue to soar, since that's not what we were because of one man, it is who we have become as a team, to soar together. It's bitter to say, but thank you, Potter. It was just a matter of time. Like they picked apart our best players, it was just a matter of time that our Chamber of Secrets revealed what a great coach and staff we had. But like always, we have always found a way to rise. For we haven't fallen, just stumbled. So up the Albion.
So yeah, that was the poem about Graham Potter, guys. So how did that come to be, Zombe? Was it something that you felt deep and personal, or did you just feel like that was something you wanted to give to the Brighton community?
I think it wasn't more of a personal piece. Like I've mentioned, with the Brighton fans, it's felt more of a big family, more than just a group of fans. So every time during that period, when I would log into my Twitter account, I would see a lot of sad, a lot of angry tweets, and it's out of consideration for how my fellow Brighton fans were feeling, how disappointed most of them were. I thought maybe a poem could cheer them up, and maybe a different insight or a different point of view, rather than crying over spilt milk of Potter, because I'd previously been following Chelsea and we've sacked so many managers, but the club still stays. So Brighton Albion is now a big club. So some of these things are going to happen. You lose players, you lose managers, but because of the stature of the club is going to still stand. The kind of fans that you have, I think I spoke with Attila, the stockbroker. I don't know if you've probably come across him, and he told me about a lot of history regarding the club and how much of a role the fans themselves played in establishing the club that you have now. So I felt, despite it being a sad moment or a disappointing moment, there was still so much to be hopeful for.
Yeah, we had Attila on the podcast. Toby, you was on that podcast, weren't you?
Yeah,
and
pleasure,
he's an incredible man to speak to.
He is.
I think one thing that on the topic of just speaking to the wide range of people we get to speak to in what we love to do, the internet has brought us together, thousands of miles across the world. One thing I'm just really curious to know is, are you the only Brighton fan that you've encountered in Zambia, or do you think that you found some more, or you started a little fan club?
I met one Brighton fan. She's actually from the UK. Liz O'Brien. She's from the UK. She's running some organizations here in Zambia. So we had a chat and interacted here. Majority of the Zambian Brighton fans I know are basically fans because of Enock Mwepu. They would watch the games because there's Enock Mwepu, not really following the whole club. So I think from some of the posts that I do share on Twitter, slowly some people are actually catching on. I've had some comments from some of my friends say, what, I don't watch football, but because of the poems you make, I want to watch this Brighton team you keep talking about. So I would love to actually build a small community of Brighton fans. I've been thinking of setting up a little studio. I think once we set up our home with my wife, I want to set up a little studio where I share my poems. It's nicely decorated with Brighton regalia and the colors all there. Probably have a little cafe as well where Brighton fans or people who want to watch Brighton can come have some coffee and watch the Brighton games.
I'm there. Toby, I'm on the next flight to Zambia. We are
Let's
we are
go, man.
going.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And
That's
just
on the
quickly
Albion
going.
Obsessed card, that one.
Yeah, exactly. Just quickly going back to the poem, what you pulled at
Yes.
another one of my heartstrings. Harry Potter. I'm a massive Harry Potter nerd as well.
Oh,
So I
okay.
I was so excited when you used all of the references to the Harry Potter films. That's just a little nerdy part of me. So we'll just put that to the side quickly. So yeah, thanks for doing that. But tell us a little bit about Zambia then, as a country. Like if people did want to come over and experience the culture of Zambia.
All right. So Zambia is situated in the southern part of Africa. It's a landlocked country. We have a couple of neighbors around us. We don't have a sea coast, so we're landlocked. I think we're doing our census this year, but last time it was done, we should be about just under 20 million people in total. So we are friendly people. I think Zambians are incredibly friendly people. They're very welcoming, and I think one of the big sectors that is growing in Zambia is the tourism sector, where we have the Victoria Falls, which is one of the seven wonders of the world. So that's something. If you'd ever want to come to Zambia, that's something you definitely have to see. It's in Livingstone. Zambia prides itself in calling itself the home of Africa, the real Africa. Zambia is the real Africa because we have all the big five animals. We have lions, we've got elephants, we've got rhinos, we've got hippos, we've got the giraffes, we've got these animals we see on TV, on the movies. You can see them in the flesh, and it's really incredible. You can get one on one with wildlife. Apart from that, there's the food. I'm sure there's one or two traditional delicacies you like to try out, and I think when it comes to football, we have some derbies here in Zambia, which are very 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 feisty, very feisty, especially on the Copper Belt. There's a place called the Copper Belt. There are some games which you'd like to watch if you want to see that passion, that excitement of local football. So yeah, so there's a lot to do. We recently got a new president inaugurated just last year. So he's just clocking his first year. So we're in that process of actually developing as a country from the economic point of view. So everything is looking up. It's looking exciting. It's a peaceful country. We haven't experienced war since our independence. So it's a brilliant, brilliant, peaceful country. You would love to visit here.
Yeah, that's another one of my loves as well, is the wildlife. Like I would absolutely adore to go to Zambia or somewhere else in Africa and experience the safaris and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
I've got a lion tattoo on my hand.
Ah,
So
nice.
I'm all about the lions and the whole wildlife over there. So that's something I 100% want to do.
Nice, nice. On our honeymoon, we went into the Kafue National Park, which is like one of the biggest parks in Southern Africa, and the chalet where we were sleeping. Apparently, it was the favorite bank of one of the hippos, and that hippo is named Mark. So early in the morning, early in the morning, would hear lions roar, what's on your hand, would hear the lions roaring, and if you get up early enough, you would actually see the hippo just grazing by the chalet. It's nice. It's brilliant.
That's phenomenal. That is like
Yeah.
unbelievable. I'd love to do that.
One thing I wanted to know, we've spoken a lot about Zambia and Zambian football, but what about the man behind the poems? What about yourself? How did you get into poetry? How did you get into football? I want to hear your life story.
All right, so I started writing poetry in 2008. I think at that time I was still in high school. It was mainly because of my interest in public speaking and theater. When I was much younger in primary school, I think since I was 4, I was acting in school plays, town hall plays. But when I reached high school, I think it's more like we outgrew the stage. Being teenagers, we thought we shouldn't be on stage anymore, so we didn't have so many activities on the stage or on theater. So I had to find a way that I would get up on stage, but still have that respect of being a teenager. And I think poetry gave me that option where I could write poetry for the class or for the school, and I'll present it during assemblies. And I think from there, it's been a journey of growth and development, trying to understand how best my art can be used apart from just entertaining people. I think, like I mentioned in our chats earlier, I spoke about mental health, how we use poetry in mental health. In the past few years, we've actually mentored inmates. We've gone into prisons to mentor inmates on poetry therapy, how to write poems, how to express themselves emotionally using poetry. We've mentored young people, teenagers on emotional intelligence using poetry. So that's one of some of the avenues where my art has actually gone. In 2020, I actually partnered with the head of state, then the former head of state, Edgar Lungu, on creating what was called the Presidential Poetry Contest, where poets from every part of the country got to speak about issues like gender-based violence, which was a very big win for myself, my team, and the poetry itself. So when it comes to football, though, football is more like one of those things that I enjoy writing poetry and I'm passionate about it, and I enjoy watching football. So me and my friends sometimes make up these poetic commentaries, especially with the likes of Peter Drury, who's brilliant, by the way. Yeah, so you'd watch Peter Drury and like, you know what, that goal was A, B, C, and D, and you're like, that sounds poetic, and that was how the marriage came together.
That's incredible. I mean, the man behind the poems is stands for so much more than what some football fans may just see immediately. That's one thing we are really reciprocative of on the podcast, is supporting mental health, supporting the idea of obviously speaking to people if you are in trouble. So, I'll always try and take my little 5 minutes just to say, if you are someone out there who is struggling with their mental health, please speak to a friend, speak to a doctor, speak to a close relative, anyone you can. Just make sure you get it out there. So thank you very much for your work towards that. It's honestly incredible what you're doing. I'm sat here in awe of everything you've done during your lifetime already.
And poetry is such an incredible creative thing as well. How do you feel it really do you feel it's one of the best things that you could do to help your mental health improve? Like, what role do you think it plays in society?
Okay, so when it comes to mental health and poetry, it's more of a personal experience myself. I used to write poems in some of the hardest circumstances or situations as a young man, where I would find comfort in releasing whatever emotion that I was feeling. Like Toby has mentioned, where you talk to somebody, there are some times when you feel like you would be judged when you open up to someone, where you might not be understood or someone might not give you the solution. But I found it better not to keep it just in myself. I would sometimes put it in a poem, and if there's an opportunity to share it, I would share it, and people would look at it as an art, critique it as an art, not knowing that that's actually a personal situation. So that really, really helped me. And I didn't feel judged, because I feel they're judging the poem, not me. So it kind of helps me, and it helps me that way. I've seen it work in Zambia with the kids that we've worked with. I think we worked with over 100 kids. I had a session with about 20 inmates for about 6 months. and we saw how the change, the emotional change was happening in these people, the positiveness that was happening. Some of the inmates, I think I had one inmate who actually confessed to a crime. He was firmly disagreeing, saying, "No, I never committed this. I'm here unfairly." But within 3 months of being able to share and express himself, he opens up and says, "You know what? I actually did this. I deserve to be here. If I'm going to leave, I have to live as a better person rather than refusing the person that came in here." So it's got a potential to be one of the greatest tools when it comes to dealing with some of the mental health issues, because I believe anybody can write a poem because everybody has emotions, and poetry is mainly about emotions. So despite us having so much fun talking about football, those are also emotions. You feel attached to it because of emotions. Joe, you related to the particular poem on Potter because of an emotional state that you were in. So all that becomes a tool for mental health. That's how we use it to help others.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've practiced as well in writing my feelings down, and just getting things out there to say to someone, I'm feeling this way as well. Not necessarily to say, look at what my life is, like I'm so hard done by, but more to say, I struggle with this and I'm sure you do as well. So let's talk about it, and let's get it laid out on the table. And it's so inspiring to know that those it because it is a simple thing of poetry, as you say, you believe everyone can do it, and I do too. Something so simple can be so effective, and that's just really powerful for me, because I also dabble in songwriting as well.
Lovely.
So yeah, for me it's just so powerful to hear that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I want to keep the message as is there. I don't want to try and tarnish it with anything else. So I would like to, in not in a rude way, but I would like to try and leave that where it is, because I think that was excellently put by both of you. I think really it does hold a big emotional place now in my heart that maybe I hadn't thought about before. As someone who has had issues with his mental health in the past, I'm certainly going to try and look for another way to express myself and another way to get that out in a healthy way. So, I'd like to thank you both for pitching that forward. I did want to move it on to talk about football again, if that's all right with both of you. This season, obviously, we've just had Roberto De Zerbi announced as our new head coach. I want to say manager, but it's new head coach. I wondered what your thoughts were on it, and your prediction for how the next game against Liverpool, and then the rest of the season past that.
Or my prediction or my thoughts.
They hear
Yeah.
my thoughts all the time, Zombe. Don't worry. Honestly, yeah, definitely you. I need to stop talking.
All right, all right. I haven't got a lockdown on the new head coach, but I heard he had the stint with Swasulo in the entire Italian Serie A. I think I've read a few bits and pieces about his CV and the type of football he plays. Apparently, it's a bit slightly more aggressive than Graham Potter. It's a bit more attacking. So. I think even after writing that poem, I think I was one of those fans who wasn't so worried about who's going to come in next, because I think Brighton over the years have been excellent in replacing players. We sold Coquerel to Chelsea, replaced him with someone who's seemingly apparently better. It's been like that. So, I mean, there's always been a good thought process behind everything that Brighton does. So even when it came to hiring a manager, it wasn't something that happened in a haste or out of desperation. I kind of expected it to be somebody who's going to relate to the plan, to the direction of Brighton Football Club itself. So the new coach and what he represents on paper, what we have seen and what we have seen in his previous stints, it's exciting. I think Graham Potter, for what he did, leaving Brighton at fourth, it's different from a manager or a coach leaving a struggling club. I think he left Brighton when they were thriving. And I think it's easier, or at least slightly easier, to take on a thriving club than a club that needs to reshuffle because of its results. So it's exciting. I'm actually excited to see what he's going to do, because he's got a crop of players who know what they want to do, who are playing a really exciting brand of football, and we have a manager, a head coach who's come in, who plays an expansive style of football. He plays almost a similar style of football to Porter, so not many differences out there. I'm not sure if he's going to change the formation. There could be maybe one or two tinkles here and there, but I think the blueprint has been laid for Brighton to. I expect Europe this season.
Oh, I hope so. I really hope so. And you say about what formation? I think the players have probably played under like every single formation under the sun under Graham Potter. Toby, he's the what's it called? Versatility master.
I think Graham Potter could have played 1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1 and still got a performance out of the team. So.
Yeah, no, that is true. But I just want to go back to your poem again, as you mentioned it was something to say to cheer people up. And for me, in history of Brighton and supporting my football club like I've done for so many years, I just want to sort of say again that your poem will be the turning point for me in that moment of our history. So that is always going to hold a really special place in my heart. So again, I just want to say thank you for that as well. But talking about Europe then, how possible is that, Toby? Like we joked about it last season when we started this podcast, because we're only just over a year old, Zombe. We started this podcast and our first podcast was called European Tour. We're all going on a European tour. Toby, is it happening again, mate?
Oh, don't put that sort of pressure on me, Joe. Yes, yeah, let's bring it on.
Yes.
Let's keep the confidence high. You know, even if it is Conference League, you know, we're looking forward to that. And I think the other clubs you'd see around this position, they're all struggling this season. Leicester, particularly, I thought they'd be doing a lot better. And I think, to be honest, their performances against Tottenham the other day, I think, should have got a better result than it did. So yeah, no, I'm on the Zombe train on that one. Let's get Brighton to Europe.
European, so it is.
Yeah, 100%. Also, Zombe, I've seen you wearing your Brighton shirts in the pictures you sent over to me today. I believe they got Mwepu on the back. Are they match worn by Enock Mwepu?
I did actually ask him that. He brought me two kits. I requested for one from Tariq Lamptey. He's actually one of the players from Brighton who made me start watching Brighton on a regular basis, because he's somebody that I had followed from his Chelsea days. So when he went to Brighton and I knew he was going to get frequent football, I think I was excited to watch him play and knowing what the style of football Brighton plays. So I wanted a shirt. I wanted a jersey from Lamptey. So the one I got from Lamptey, that one I'm very sure of. It was match worn. Should have been for the FA Cup, if I'm not mistaken. Should have been FA Cup jersey. It's actually signed. The Mwepu one, though, I'm not so sure. Because it's a medium. Mwepu should be a large. So I don't think he wore that.
Fair enough. I'm a massive shirt collector, and so is Tom, who is one of our regular hosts on this podcast. And I'm sure he would have wanted to know that as well as me. I've got all my shirt collection there.
I've seen that.
A match worn is something that I am definitely after. So if you could put a word in for me to Mwepu, I'd be much obliged.
Get a match worn, sure thing.
Yeah. So tell me about that relationship then. Have you known Enock, or is it something you just know through Zambian football? Is he a friend? How is that relationship?
I think me knowing Mwepu personally was because of his wife now. She was staying in a town where I was working from, and it was a point when Salzburg, RB Salzburg, were in the Champions League, and Enock Mwepu and Patson Daka featured in the UEFA Team of the Week. So I got these notifications on my Facebook saying you should write a poem about these two. Write a poem about this two. And I did. I didn't think I should, but then I looked at one of the people that was commenting on there, and I'm like, I've seen this girl somewhere before. So I stalked her. I stalked her profile, and I noticed, oh, this is Enock Mwepu's girlfriend. So you know what? Let me take up. Let me take on this. So I did my poem, and after I did it, I showed it to him. So I showed it to her, and he loved it. Actually, loved he loved the poem. He really appreciated it. And ironically or coincidentally, just 2 days later, the former head of state actually shared the same poem on the president's page, on his page. So it went viral real quick. So I think that was the point where Mwepu thought maybe he needed to know me better to understand who's this guy. Yeah, so I think he dug through some of my work and he texted me saying, you know what, your work is actually very good. I think so. From there, we started talking just bits by bits. And when he was about to get married, his wife made a request to say if we're going to have any performance at our wedding, Zombe should be one of the performers. I would want him to write our official wedding poem. So we did that particular poem. It was actually featuring my wife now. So yeah, we did a presentation together, and I think since then he's been more like a friend now. He's a friend now. We get to talk on different issues. We get to talk about what's happening in Zambia. We talk about politics, economics, business, apart from just football. So he's a friend. When he comes over from Europe, he normally invites and we'll have a chill. Yeah, he's cool like that now.
That's amazing. You definitely get that vibe from him when you watch the interviews. He done a recent one for Premier League Stories, and he spoke about when he spoke about Brighton getting to the Champions League, which sold me even more on him, by the way, because I just love his attitude, and he must be just such a nice person to be able to talk to.
He is. He's a down to earth guy. He's a very humble gentleman. But one thing I cannot fault him for is his ambition. He really strives to be great. He strives to do the best to his abilities, and I think that's why he's the Zambian football captain.
One thing that I find really striking from everything you've told us today and everything that I've seen online is the difference in culture between sort of, I don't know if it's England as a whole and then Zambia as a whole, or if it's just to do with football. But with football in England, a lot of people are quick to bring rival players down, to bring, oh, I don't like Declan Rice because he plays for West Ham, I'm going to bring him down. And it sort of creates this toxic atmosphere in England. But that just doesn't seem to be a thing with Zambian football. I see Enock Mwepu and Patson Daka, they always talk to each other, hug each other after the game, always out in the media, always talking about each other in a great light. Is that something that you see as well?
It is. It is on two points, especially when it comes to Patson Daka and Enock Mwepu. Those two have played together for a very long time. They were together at a program called the Airtel Rising Stars when they were just kids. This is where they were picked now to play to go and play abroad. So they've been playing together for a very long time. I think they've built that friendship, that brotherhood between themselves. And the second point is on the Zambian football scene. For us, having our players play in arguably the greatest league in the world is an achievement for us. So it will be really pointless to bring down one of our own, which would give negative feedback, negative criticism. At the end of the day, he leaves the Premier League to whose benefit? The goal and the hope is to see more Zambian players playing in the Premier League, playing in the big leagues in Europe. So when we see Patson Daka and Enock Mwepu, I think the craziest game was the recent one between Brighton and Leicester, where in the first minute, in the first few minutes, Patson Daka creates an assist, and I'm happy, but then I want Brighton to win. The next thing that happens is Enock Mwepu makes an assist of his own. So it's one of those things we want them to succeed, despite the teams. Therefore, I want Brighton to win, but I don't want Patson Daka to fail. I want Enock Mwepu to rise, and I also want Patson Daka to rise. So I think that goes with almost every Zambian football fan.
Basically, what I think it is, Toby, is every single Premier League team should have a Zambian footballer in there because they're just absolute wonder to watch. And Zambian football is fully on the rise, and I will be supporting Zambia as well from now on. From what you've said about it all, it's just so incredibly inspiring and positive, and I just so wish that England had that outlook as well, as you say, Toby. Now, Zombe, you've spoke about Mwepu, we've spoken about Lamptey in the Brighton squad. Can you tell me one other player that sort of catches your eye in that squad?
Previously, it was actually Cucurella, who's now left. But now, one player who's got my eye is Moises Caicedo. That's how I pronounce it. Yeah, that's somebody who's playing some real smooth football in midfield. Such a young player. He plays with so much confidence. So that's definitely a player that I'm watching as well when it comes to Brighton.
Yeah, we're mega excited about him, aren't we, Toby?
He's excellent. Yeah, he's someone that, you take the greatest midfielders of our generation, Pirlo, Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard, Xavi, you bundle them all up into one player, and then you get Moises Caicedo. One thing I did want to just quickly talk about as well is 1st of October, Brighton play against Liverpool. Joe touched on it earlier. Goal of the season from Enock Mwepu last time against them. Might not have been last time against them actually, but either way, incredible goal. Do you think he'll play, and do you think he can recreate it?
We'll recreate it. I'll try and ask him if he can, but I'm not sure. But he's not the one for trying. I'm very sure he's going to try something. Liverpool is actually one of the team he likes on a personal basis. And one thing I actually like about Enock Mwepu is he's going to try to beat them as hard as possible. He's going to play his heart out against Liverpool. So I hope he does get a start. But whatever role he's going to play, I'm sure he's going to give his all. I think I just need to remind him to keep his head a bit down, make sure he doesn't out overplay himself. But yeah, I think he's going to give it his go.
If you just could make sure he doesn't play too well, just so the other clubs don't come in for him, because we'd rather keep him at Brighton. So if you could just tone it down a tiny bit, but yeah, a recreation would be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, you'll have Graham Potter after him in minutes.
Yeah,
the bid will come in right after he scores.
They're buying everything else about Brighton, so they might as well get Mwepu as well. But no, honestly, what a chat it's been, Zombe. So thank you so much for joining us. It's really positive stuff to hear about Zambia and Zambian football, especially. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to our listeners or viewers? Anything you wanted to put out into the world?
Not so much. I think I'll just like to say thank you for having me on the podcast, and love to encourage you guys keep on doing what you're doing, building a community, giving people platforms to share their views on football. Because I personally believe football is not just for entertainment. It's something that's personal. It's something that's passionable. People are passionate about football. So when you have podcasts like this, have conversations like this, it's like bringing football to somebody like me who's in Zambia. You bring Brighton to my desk. So it feels really nice. And I hope people who are listening to this do actually enjoy this and share it, so that we help grow this great platform.
Yeah, exactly that. And you are forever welcome in the city of Brighton and Hove, and especially at the Amex, where, as you say, you will get bought tons of beer, tons of pies to enjoy the lovely English football culture. As I say, Zombie, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And we will chat to you very soon. Albion Obsessed listeners, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to use Tom's line again. Wherever you may be, whenever you may be, have a wonderful day, evening, lunch, brunch, whatever you're doing. So yeah, see you later. We'll chat to you soon. Bye-bye now.